Hi, and welcome to your Life Purpose Challenge. And hold a second, I need to, yes. So welcome to your Life Purpose Challenge. I'm Dr. Michelle Pedicola, founder of Secrets of Life and Death and Second Chance Secrets. And I created this 5-day Life Purpose Challenge because it is my mission to help people, all you people out there in the world, to step into your own life purpose, to live your life more fully. I explained in one of my earlier videos of this week how I came to discover my own life purpose and how this was so electrifying. And it was such a wake-up call that I felt it was my mission to wake other people up. In fact, I made a documentary film series to help people wake up, to realize that the time we have in this amazing three-dimensional plane, and yes, it has a lot of problems with it, but it's also absolutely amazing and vivid and experiential and exciting. And we are here for a reason. We are here for a purpose. I'm inviting you to wake up to what your purpose is. Today, the focus is on resistance. The first 2 days, the first day we talked about intention. What is it you want to create? Now, sometimes people really have no idea what their life purpose is. I had no idea. I had no idea because I was a people pleaser. I spent all my time focusing out in the world on other people and trying to give them what they wanted. And it took me almost 50 years to wake up. That's a long time. I lost a lot of time. Now, it wasn't totally a waste because each time the universe tried to wake me up, I took a step in the right direction. I started working on finding out about myself and what made me tick. I worked in a group home with emotionally disturbed children. And then I moved to working in video and interviewing people who were dying. Each step of the way, trying to find out more about who I am. I joined a spiritual community. But I want to make that a little bit easier for you because it took me a long time. And it doesn't have to take you a long time. And you don't have to wait till somebody dies, which is what happened to me, in order to wake up. And what I've noticed is that if you ignore your calling, the universe starts to send out wake-up calls to you. And each time they're a little bit noisier. Those wake-up calls are a little more difficult for you to resist. So I invite you today to take a moment and look at your own life experience. Have you had wake-up calls? Have you had near disastrous experiences? Have you had a breakup in your marriage? Have you lost somebody? Have you traveled across the country and started your life over again? Have you had disappointments? Have you failed at a job? Any of these things could be a sign that maybe you're going down the wrong path. However, it's also possible that the universe is testing you, that you don't want to give up too easily. You don't want to give up too soon. I mentioned yesterday that I have a coach who literally stayed with a program. It was a networking program that she did for 2 years before she said, you know what, this is not working. I expected to have hundreds of people come and I'm only getting like 7 or 8 people and it's just not enough. But she waited. She gave it plenty of time. And so part of the resistance is how easily we give up on what we're doing. We take a step and we don't get immediate results and we want to pull away. And of course, I felt a little of that this week in this Life Purpose Challenge because I only had one person show up for the Zoom call. Now, that doesn't mean that other people aren't listening. In fact, yesterday I found out that somebody had listened and watched it on my YouTube channel. However, we as human beings, we're used to getting those likes, those pats on the back, and we can get discouraged when we don't get that reinforcement. Now, my Sufi teacher used to say, go where the energy is. But sometimes you have to consider that the energy starts with you, that you have to put the energy out first before you get the results back. You have to uplift and raise your vibrational level to attract the people and what you need to be doing, and the support you need, and the resources that you need. And stay aware. Be aware of when the universe is actually sending you help. There's that old joke about the guy who is in the flood and the water's coming up and he climbs up onto the top of the roof, and a guy in a boat comes by and he says, "Would you like a ride? Can I take you to safety?" He says, "Oh no, I'm waiting for God to answer. I'm praying to God." And then the next thing that comes along is an airplane, and the guy comes along and hangs out a ladder, and he says, "Can I help you?" And he says, "No, no, I'm waiting for God to save me." And finally, the water comes up and it drowns him, and he shows up on the at the pearly gates, and he says, "God, why did you save me?" He says, "What do you mean? I sent, oh, I guess there was also a bicycle at the beginning. I sent you a bicycle, a boat, and a helicopter. What did you want? A plane?" And we have to pay attention to when God, divine, the universe is sending us support, that we're moving in the right direction. Now, what I mentioned in my earlier QA session was that when you make a commitment, when you get clear about what it is that you're trying out, and you don't have to get it right the first time, you just have to try it out. When you get clear and you make a commitment, the universe supports you, but you have to pay attention. You can't expect it to necessarily be loud, and you have to look around, and it may be asking you to kind of nudge in one direction or another. So that's part of the resistance. We get childlike and impatient. Don't get impatient. Hang in there. So here's another problem. Sometimes we set our sights too small. We want it easy. We want it safe. And here's the reason. We reside, we're spiritual beings, but we reside, we navigate this three-dimensional plane in these bodies. And we come into these bodies when they're tiny babies. And we have to survive childhood. And very few of us have perfect parents. They make mistakes. And they're too critical, or they're too accommodating, or they're too nurturing, or they're too critical, I think I said critical, violent or neglectful. And we learn behavior patterns to keep us safe. And they work for a long time. Mine, people pleasing, whoa, worked really well, especially in school. National Honor Society, Phi Beta Kappa, one of 2 graduate students to earn my PhD. And then I got into the real world, and it didn't work so well anymore. What I found is that in stepping into your purpose, into stepping into who you really are, you have to become a leader. You have to stand in your power, authentic power and strength. You have to accept who you really are. And most of us have been taught from childhood not to be who we are, because it isn't safe to be who we are. We want to be what other people tell us to be, because that's safe, because that's where we get the rewards and the approval and the appreciation. So now you've got all this programming, and it's 95% of it is subconscious. You don't even know it's going on. So how do you bring it up? Well, you bring it up by taking steps towards your life purpose. So the first step is to figure out what your life purpose might be. And you know what? You don't have to get it right. You just have to get an idea. And you can get an idea from going back into your childhood and identifying the things that you love to do. Or maybe you know something that you love to do right now, and you do that and you see what happens. How does the universe respond? And have patience. And then see how your resistance comes up. So some of the things that might prevent you from even taking that first step, or what you do is you tend to plan real small. You don't really go for the full 9 yards of what your vision is. Say, oh, I don't want to be that big. Well, first of all, if you've never been exposed to a bigger vision, it's hard to create a bigger vision. Good news, tomorrow's training is about future vision, is trying to tweak the vision of what's possible, what you can create. So one of the questions you might ask yourself is, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? If you could do absolutely anything, what would you do? Now, I know a lot of you people out there, you would travel, right? Because that's fun. But that may not be your purpose, or it may be a way to find out what your purpose is. I want you to expand your notion. And stepping into your purpose may not be, and I'm going to check and see if there's anybody who's posting comments here. Nope. I'm going to say, please post your comments here. So you may think of your life purpose as something small and safe. And when you expand it, that's when the resistance comes up. That's when even thinking small is resistance in and of itself. But when you start taking steps, that's when you really get to let those patterns emerge from the depths. So some of the ways in which that could happen. What are some of the ways in which you experience resistance? Well, I have a whole list of them. One of the favorite ones is illness. Our bodies are so accommodating. If we need a good excuse, it will get sick for us. And then we'll have an excuse. Oh, I'm sick. I can't go. I'm too tired. I'm too overwhelmed. I have too much on my plate. By the way, busyness is a really good resistance device. If you fill up all your time with activities that really don't move you forward in your purpose, but keep you busy, that's a way in which resistance expresses itself. Let's see, what other ways? They're all down here. You delay. You put other things at it. Oh, I got to wash the dishes. Oh, wait a minute, I need to straighten up the room. Oh my God, I can't get into my file cabinet. I got to get rid of some of this paper. I know this. I mean, I think all of us do this to a certain extent until we finally hunker down and do it. Or you're just so busy all day long and it's the end of the day and you really need to get this one thing done, but you're like, oh, I can't do it. I just don't have the energy. And then there are those people who like clear the deck and then they feel unsure of themselves and their little brain starts chattering and telling you how you're not good enough, how you can't do it. And then you feel depressed and then you don't have the high energy. And then you say, well, there's no point in my starting because I'm just going to fail. So these are all ways. Another one that's really common is if you have a family. Children have crises and will whisk you away. Oh, I have to take care of that. I've seen that. People die in order for somebody to have an excuse. Oh, I can't. Oh, I was going to have a conversation with you. No, I can't. My grandmother died. Oh, my dog died. Whatever it is. And, those are really good excuses. Being sick, having somebody die, having somebody having a crisis, having your child have a major emotional crisis. Of course, you got to take care of them. Yes, but how are you attracting that? Because in a sense, everything that shows up in your life, you're attracting to yourself. You're bringing that on. You are creating that for yourself to have an excuse to get off the hook. Well, here's the thing. You are never off the hook. Your brilliance, your higher mind, your spirit is always there nudging you, saying, got to step up, got to step up. And here's something, so it sends you wake-up calls. So my first wake-up call was I lost my first teaching job at a college in Minnesota. I was devastated. And then my next wake-up call is my first husband left me. Well, that was a big wake-up call. But again, each time I kind of wiggled out of it. But the final one was when my mother was passing away. And she revealed to me that she had regrets. And my mother was the poster child for living her life purpose. She was a toy designer. She loved what she did. She was courageous. She went to New York. She took her designs before major corporate executives in toy companies, and she sold many of her designs. So she was a poster child for that, and she had regrets because she didn't get them all out there. Some of her most cherished projects were never fully realized, and she ran out of time. And this was a wake-up call for me because I realized, oh my gosh, I had so not been living my life purpose. I had been so busy trying to please everybody else in the world. And that's when I decided I was going to make my documentary film series. And so I, little baby steps, started checking it out and talking to people. And then I remember the first time I went out to interview somebody and see, I didn't have the confidence to ask somebody for help. I didn't want to spend any money. I didn't want to commit in the way of investing. And the first video I made was absolutely useless because the person's head was most of the time below the line of the video because I was so busy talking to her that I wasn't watching the screen. So after that, I started getting a camera person. And I hooked up with another person and she got terrible, boring video. And so I broke up with her and I finally decided to do it on my own. But I was afraid. And oftentimes I would reach out to somebody else and say, well, maybe we could combine forces. Sometimes you just have to do it yourself because you have to develop that courage. You have to not let somebody else hijack your project. And that's what I had to do. Okay, sorry about that. Little interruptions, resistance. But I've turned it off. I've started to learn to set my boundaries. So those are the kinds of things that show up that when you commit and you're really even moving forward, that your mind is going to jump in there and tell you you're not good enough. And you're going to attract people that tell you you shouldn't do it, that you're not smart enough, that you don't have the skills, that you don't have the education. Why are you wasting your time? It's a action of folly. You have to follow your heart and you have to listen to it. And you have to get over these other people because they don't know, because a lot of people do not want you to live your life purpose. A, because you might not give them as much attention as you usually do. And B, they're afraid of facing their own life purpose. And so if you do, where does that leave them? Then they start to feel like, well, maybe I should be doing that too. And that's scary. So people sometimes will, one of my coaches once talked about the crabs in the bucket, that if you put crabs in a bucket and one of them tries to climb out, the other crabs pull it back in. Well, you got to watch out for the crabs that are going to try and pull you back in as you move towards your life purpose. So I want to share some stories with you about people who were called to step up in a big way. So I was thinking about Mother Mary. Here's a young woman who's told by an angel, yeah, right, you're going to be impregnated. So here's this young woman, total virgin. She's pregnant. Mom, I'm pregnant. What? What do you mean you're pregnant? Who is it? Who's the father? God. What? It's a hard story. Oh yeah, God impregnated me. Yeah, right, sure. Okay, now you have to marry this older man and make yourself a good woman. Okay. And she went through that. She went through, I mean, I'm sure back in those days, it was not okay to get pregnant out of wedlock. And then she had to go off and she had to have the baby in a manger. And then she had to deal with a very precocious child. And then she had to lose her son. And then she stepped into being a saint, somebody that people pray to. She had to step into that. And you know what? Oftentimes people who follow that particular religion glorify her more than almost anybody else because they can relate to her because she was a human being. So I give that as an example of somebody who really stepped in. And Muhammad, I think the angel came down to him 3 different times, and each time he says, "No, I'm not doing it." He was told he had to mount a movement, and he maybe even had to wage war on people in order to change them to this new religion. But what about Buddha? What did he have to do? He had to give up all of his riches and go out into the wilderness. My guess is your higher spirit, your higher mind is not asking you to do that. Was another a person I ran into, read about. Her book was called The Peace Pilgrim. And this woman went out and walked around. She didn't have any money. She just walked around like a homeless person and inspired people to peace, because that was her mission. That was her purpose. So what is your mission? What is your purpose? Can you make it a little bit bigger? Can you reach more people? Who are you? Who is your audience? Who are the recipients of your legacy? And how do you want to influence them? And it depends on where you are in your life. But I'm going to reveal to you right now, I'm 71 years old. It's not too late. I bet most of you out there are younger than me. It's not too late, but you may have to clean up your act. You may have to take care of yourself so that you can move forward, because it takes energy, and it takes endurance, and it takes clarity of mind. So you have to take care of your body. It's one of the things that I talk about in my Your Great Human Adventure series on YouTube. So you might want to check that out too. Okay, what else do I have? The ways in which you resist. What do you want to do? So one of the ways in which we deny ourselves, we don't even think about it, which is what I did. And then when you do, you don't think it's good enough. I had a session with a woman in which she listened to her heart. And by the way, there is an exercise in the first video. I go through working with a woman to listen to her heart and hear what the heart says about what she's meant to be doing. This is more safe, this is more accurate than listening to your brain, because your brain's been programmed by your childhood experiences, and it will want to play safe. It will think of small, simple things to do. And I'm inviting you to expand that, to double it, to triple it, to multiply it 10 times, and think, if you couldn't fail, what would you want to do? I love working with people on Zoom. I get lazy, but I would love to take people on a retreat to really get away, because I just went on a retreat recently to New Mexico, and it was just stepping out of your normal routine and giving yourself time to focus in, to feel what you're feeling inside, and to do activities that activate and stimulate and boost your awareness, boost your thoughts, boost your creativity. That's one of the things that going to a retreat does, is that it gives you a chance to listen to deep inside. And if you do certain activities, you actually get super creative, and all kinds of ideas come for you. So we've only got about 6 minutes left. Let me see if I have anything else to talk to you about. Oh, one other thing. Well, one more thing. I was telling you how the universe taps you on the shoulder, that your higher mind, your spirit taps you on the shoulder when you're not proceeding down the right path. But you have to learn to discern between when you're getting a tap on the shoulder or it's your own resistance. Now, another thing you need to keep in mind, this is really important for those of you who have gone through a major change. Maybe you've retired. You're like, okay, I've worked hard. Now I'm going to just relax. You have 300 billion cells, all with a purpose. Now, the primary purpose is to keep you alive, and sometimes that interferes with your life purpose, but they also are there to be stretched. You are there to be stretched. This body is here to be challenged and stretched. And the more we challenge it, we do things like walk up the hill, We do things like exercising. We do things like going to a dance when we are feeling shy and reclusive. Stretching yourself actually makes the body better. It stimulates systems, chemical systems in your body that actually increase longevity. So here's what I believe. I believe that that when you are living your purpose, it helps to keep you young. When you are living fully, it activates all the senses in your body. It activates all the cells in your body, and you live fully. You wake up in the morning and you feel like, yes, I am living my purpose. I am so grateful. And you have more joy and happiness. And your cells are happy because they have a purpose. So if you retire and you say, well, I'm out to pasture now, and you believe that, you are literally telling all 300 billion cells that they are no longer needed. And every one of them have a mechanism for dying. That's how we all die. Eventually we do die. And every cell in our body has a mechanism. It's called apoptosis, in which it turns off a switch. And I have heard many cases in which somebody retires and within 6 to 8 months, they get some sort of life-threatening illness because they haven't done the work. They haven't ever listened to their life purpose, and they give up. And I'm here to tell you, don't give up. That's my purpose. I'm here to inspire you and to get you to move forward in your life purpose, in your life, to have a great, valuable, worthwhile human adventure that makes a difference to other people. And here's another thing to keep in mind. As human beings, we need meaning. We have to have a purpose. Otherwise we start to feel depressed. We feel useless. We don't feel like there's any reason to be here. And that's what sets you up for dying. But as long as you have a purpose. Now I have the jury's still out on this one. I have some friends who volunteer. I have a friend who volunteers at Forgotten Felines and gives food away at a food bank. And I have another friend who does that. And I have another friend who works for a museum. These are good things, and they will hold that life purpose issue at bay. I happen to know that one of my friends is a great artist, but at a very early age, she got trampled. And I have a hunch that at some point she's going to have to finally face her fears about being an artist. I don't know about the woman who used to be a medical technologist. In many ways, she's been living her life purpose all along. So I think she's good to go, as long as she keeps on being of service to people. So being of service is good, but what are your talents? What are your particular talents that you need to share with the world? What gifts do you have? Are you good at dancing? Are you good at singing? Are you good at figuring out problems? Are you good with math? Are you good with money? Where are your gifts? And how can you share that with other people? How can you leave your legacy, which is not only your gifts, but what you've learned in the course of your life? What have you learned that's made a difference for you? And might that make a difference for somebody else? A grandchild, a niece? What do you have to offer? And there are lots of templates on how to leave what do they call it? Some kind of a will. It's a word will. It's a value will as opposed to a monetary will. So we're just about over for today. Come back tomorrow when we do the future visioning. That will be the training. And then I will talk about how you can use that to amplify your mission. How can you multiply, amplify, magnify your mission? And don't forget, on Friday, we have a workshop, a full hour workshop. from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Friday, Pacific Standard Time. So please join me. Be brilliant and bye for now.